I want to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this episode and supporting the BCU from the very beginning. I'm excited to announce my new website, babi.sh, or as I like to call it, babby.sh. The ultimate destination for all things BCU. There's all the recipes from my videos, exclusive new recipes. You can search by genre or ingredient. You can even toggle between US and metric and scale the serving size. We heard your feedback about everything you wanted from the site, so that's what we did. You can get 10% off your first Squarespace order by visiting squarespace.com/babish.
Hello there, welcome back to another episode of Anything with Alvin, where today we're going to be making the chicken parm pizza for two served at Quality Italian in New York City. Now this is one of the restaurant's signature dishes. I've actually had the pleasure of eating it myself and I must say it is quite delicious. So it seems like how they prepared this at the restaurant is different than how you would make just a normal chicken parm at home. Rather than one large giant piece of chicken pounded out, they've opted for more of like a chicken disc, which first starts with 3 pounds of boneless chicken thighs, which we're gonna go ahead and cube up. And that's gonna go into a food processor along with some seasonings. 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of dried oregano, 1 teaspoon of dried basil, half a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes, some salt and pepper to taste, and let that go for a nice good spin. Once our little chicken nugget mixture has been made into a nice little paste, that's gonna go onto a tray with some flour, so we can form this into more of a disc shape that makes this easier to shape later. The flour is going to help prevent the chicken from sticking to the tray and allow us to remove it later. And because this disc is supposed to be rather thin, we ended up with a little bit more chicken than usual, but that's okay. This ground chicken mixture is going to go home with me. Once our chicken disc has been patted out to about approximately 1 foot in diameter, nicely thinned out, this is going to go into the freezer to set up hard for about an hour or two. Now let's move on to making our tomato sauce. This is a pretty standard sauce. We're going to first start by sauteing 3 garlic cloves and 1 small onion, which both have been broken down into small pieces, into about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, just until they've started to develop some color. Then we're going to throw in a little bit of red pepper flake, 1 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, and cook that until it has started to simmer. Once the sauce is looking pretty good, we're going to add a couple leaves of fresh basil right at the end for a little bit of that freshness, and then immersion blender this whole thing so that we don't have any chunky lumps at the end of this. Now we can season with a little bit of salt and some pepper and approximately 1 tablespoon of brown sugar at the very end to bring out the sweetness. Now what I think makes the chicken parm pizza at Quality Italian pretty special is actually the hot honey that they make in-house and they drizzle right on top before you eat it. It's a really good combination if you've never had it on pizza, and I thought it'd be a really good idea to go ahead and make that too. You're going to first start by toasting about 2 tablespoons of red chili flakes and then just adding in a whole bottle of honey or however much you want. The more honey you add, the less hot it'll be. This is going to go until it started to bubble and has taken on a nice deep red hue. Then we're going to go take this off the heat, strain this into a container, but we want to make sure that at the very end, once it's been strained out, we add a little bit of those toasted chili flakes back in. I don't like it too spicy, but I do think having those in the honey will help it age in flavor over time. Now that our condiments are ready, let's go ahead and make our cheese blend. For the cheese, I've decided to go with 4 kinds. 4 ounces of provolone cheese, which has been grated, 4 ounces of whole milk mozzarella, which has been grated, an ounce of pecorino, which has been grated, and an ounce of Parmesan, which also has been grated. These are going to go into a bowl and mix together until we have a nice little cheese blend ready for dusting. To make sure that our chicken disc comes out of the freezer with all of its ingredients ready to go, we're going to go ahead and make our egg and dredging station. First by whisking together 1 dozen eggs and getting some flour and normal Italian breadcrumbs at the ready in some rather large pans. First, we're going to take this entire frozen disc of chicken, put it into the flour on both sides, pat off as much excess flour as we can, and then just, pretend to spin it around like a pizza because Steve told me to, and it also looks very, very fun. I would not really suggest doing this though. It doesn't really work the same as when you twirl a basketball on your finger. So we're going to stop that. Then this is going to go dunk into our egg. Get evenly coated on both sides, making sure to brush any of those blank spots with some more egg. Then this goes directly into our breadcrumbs with a lot more breadcrumbs on top, and then evenly coated until this entire thing is ready to be fried. Speaking of frying, we've had a huge pan of about 350 Fahrenheit oil ready to go. And this is a very dangerous step, so I really don't suggest you do this at home. Maybe make a smaller version or have a huger pan with a lot more room for a splash. But we're gonna slowly slide in our chicken disc into the oil and let it bubble quite dangerously towards the edge. Definitely some spilled over the side, and well, we're lucky nothing caught fire today. So the interesting thing about this is that due to its weight and due to the gas bubbles created by the water that happens when you fry something like this, there's gonna be a lot of these pockets of air that you need to press down with a spatula. So here I am trying to make sure that we're sort of taming down those bubbles and popping it if we can before it starts to make the whole thing like some giant chicken balloon. But once this has been fried until nicely golden brown on all sides, we're gonna go ahead and take this out and drain this on a paper towel lined sheet tray. After as much of that oil is taken and pressed off as we can, this is gonna go transfer onto a wire rack, which we're going to add some of our sauce. Make sure to spread that to the edges because the chicken parm isn't a chicken parm unless it has that good sauce right underneath. Then we're gonna be pretty generous with our cheese, going pretty heavy over the top, and again, trying to spread this close to the edges because we're aiming for that nice, beautiful waterfall cheese effect after this comes out of the oven. Now, since technically the whole thing is cooked at this point, all we need to do is broil the top until the cheese is bubbly and nicely golden brown, which takes about 5 minutes or so for us. Once this is out of the oven, we're gonna go ahead, transfer this to a tray, and present to you our version of the chicken parm pizza for two served at Quality Italian in New York City. A massive behemoth of a chicken parm that is more of a chicken nugget mixture rather than an entire piece of chicken. This is what it looks like after we've cut this into 8 equal slices with a pizza cutter, because now we can top this with a little fresh tear of basil on each little slice, and go ahead, put this on a cake turner and drizzle this entire thing with a generous amount of our chili hot honey. Let's pull out a wedge and show you what the texture inside looks like. Definitely more of a ground meatball thing than those fibers that you would get from a whole chicken breast or chicken thigh, but I am expecting this to be a lot more flavorful and easier to eat. I don't think this is the kind of pizza you can really eat with your hands by folding it together like a New Yorker, so we're gonna go ahead and use a fork and knife to dig in. And I have to say, it is very good. The chicken is extra juicy compared to a normal chicken parm because all of that emulsion from the chicken thigh kind of makes a spongy chicken nugget base, which is super delicious with the cheese, the honey, and the sauce. I don't exactly remember how the one at Quality Italian tasted, but I do say that this does remind me of that time I was able to have it once. But let's let everybody else in the studio eat and give their thoughts. As you can see, it is being pretty well received by the staff that day. There were about 10 people in the studio, and so I was happy that everybody was able to finish some, and if we couldn't, take all of it home quite immediately.
Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's episode. From websites to online stores to domains to analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform for you to build your online presence. All of my websites over the years have been with Squarespace, and I'm excited to share the new one, babi.sh. We were able to use Squarespace's website builder and custom integrations to create a site that provides a powerful cooking experience. If you want to try Squarespace for yourself, you can start your free trial today by visiting squarespace.com/babish to get 10% off your first purchase.